Welcome back to Wedlocked and Loaded.
Wedlocked and loaded.
You women.
Do not lump us all in one category.
So you girls, and lie and stretch the truth
You
and try
girls,
to get us jammed up.
First of all, I'm a whole ass woman, right? Think about
No
that.
disrespect.
Sounds like it to me. So why can't y'all? What is it with men that they just can't walk away?
Depends how good it is. You don't want to give that away.
The following conversation may contain material that may be triggering and traumatizing to some of the audience members. We just wanted to give you a warning before continuing this discussion.
Ladies and germs, Wedlocked and Loaded is back again for episode 7. I am Daniel Laurent.
And I am Leah Nicole.
And we're back again. You know, we always try to put the medicine in the candy and, you know, have some fun and have some laughs and share some real experiences and keep it funky with y'all and just vow to tell the truth, you know, and the whole truth. We also want to make sure that we are using the platform responsibly and actually having real conversations that can possibly help someone else. With that being said, we wanted to talk about, I wanted to talk about
you had it right the first time. We.
Well,
We.
allow
fine.
me, Leah.
No.
You can't allow me to do the alley-oop, right? And then you'll get you see what I'm saying?
So what I want you to understand.
No. So I wanted to bring this up because as a man, I think it's important to have these conversations, and there's certain things that I would like to say. And so with Leah's not condone. You just messed up my whole flow.
Oh, I didn't mess up nothing.
Damn, man.
But consent?
Nah, that's not what I wanted to say.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Alright, so whatever. So with Leah's consent, permission, salute, we wanted to talk about abuse towards women, you know, especially in our community and what that looks like. And so what I have realized early on is out of 10 females that I know and I speak to, you know, and we've had certain type of conversations, right? I think out of like 10, 7 or 8 were sexually assaulted. You know what I'm saying? And you know, you don't realize just how prevalent something is, and something so traumatic where it just repeats itself and repeats itself and repeats itself in different ways. And I think more women have been assaulted in your circle than you even know, you know. And so we wanted to talk about this and touch on some points. And I think with traumas, everyone deals differently. Some people kind of tuck it away and just kind of keep working or keep going to school or whatever it is, or they'll tuck it away and they'll stay in their relationship and kind of shield that from happening. But I think it's a certain type of power that you then release when you address it, and maybe not publicly, maybe not with the person, but when you address it to yourself.
Meaning when you face it.
Yeah. And realize that you're not a victim. You know, you're a survivor, and there's a difference. So, I wanted to ask you, Leah, like, and share what you feel comfortable sharing. But, like,
what is your question?
What was an abuse that you've experienced? And so whether, you know, physical, sexual, emotionally, whatever, however you want to say.
I think a lot of times, you know, especially early on, you don't realize, you know, that the situation that you in, some components of it are actually abusive. or, as we say now, toxic. And I think, my earliest experience of abuse, I would say, was when I was like, about 12 or 13. I was, 12 or 13. Um, I remember getting, being new at this school. Meanwhile, I was always new at the school. Golly, I went to so many schools. But I was new at the school, and, one of the kids wanted to talk to me. And, like, I was, for me, I felt like I was being polite. I just was not interested in giving him my phone number or taking his. Like, I just wasn't interested in that. I remember getting off the school bus, and he said something to me. Clearly, he didn't like my response, and he cold clocked me right in my jaw. And I was so stunned, like I was frozen, because I just couldn't believe, like, you punched me because I wasn't interested in you. At 12, I was 11. I was 12. Jesus. um but either way, like, he was around, he was probably a grade ahead of me or two, so that meant at least 2 years older than me. But, like, you are that young thinking it's okay to physically assault another young person, a female at that, all because you couldn't take the rejection. And it wasn't, let me embarrass you type rejection. Like, even in my no, I was being, like, super polite. No, no, thank you. You know? Um, yeah, so that was my first experience.
And now, how was that dealt with, or was it?
Um, it wasn't dealt with. Um, like, initially, like once I was, like, got out of my shock, um, I had mentioned it to somebody or whatever, and, like, I had to kind of diffuse that situation. I, however, never told my parents, or actually, none of my family members. Oh, wow. I'm thinking that wasn't even my first experience, now that I think about it. But it doesn't matter. We'll stay there.
But you
So it
did.
wasn't dealt with because I diffused the situation, with the person that I told, and I never told any adult, um, about that.
Why?
Um, I can't tell you why my 12-year-old self didn't do that, or my 11-year-old self didn't do that. I was in the seventh grade.
Did you
I
not?
was 12.
Did you not feel like you had,
11.
whether it was cousins or like male friends in the neighborhood, or did you not want to, the person that did it, did you not want him to be possibly hurt?
So I didn't even know the kid like that. Like I said, I was new to the school, not necessarily new to Boston, but just new to the school. Um, and I so I didn't know him, but I definitely didn't, like. Yes, he harmed me, and then the moment once I came out of my shock, like I said, like, I wanted him to be hurt, um, but it just would have been too much of a domino effect. And although I was, I was hurt, like I was able to walk away from that situation. And I just didn't want it to be, the ripple effect that it could have been, for all parties involved.
Now, would you know if you seen him today? Would you remember him?
No, I wouldn't actually.
Hmm. Would you be willing to bet that you were the last one that he punched?
No. I would not. That would be me losing whatever I'm betting against, because I'm absolute, like, if he did it that young, there's no way that that was not done later on in life. Now, can people change? Absolutely.
Now, now let me ask you, as an adult today, do you feel like you should have chosen a different way of handling that, and maybe that could have maybe spared someone else later? Like, have you ever thought of that?
Um, no, I haven't. No.
I think
I don't know. I don't, even back then, I don't think that, like, yeah, no, no. Go ahead, I'm
I
sorry.
think when things are not addressed, some things can repeat because it's something I think that is genetically imbalanced with some individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think, you know, whether it's sexual assault, emotional assault, um, like, it's usually about power more than the actual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so him punching you, like, kind of assuming that he knows the difference between like male and female, and a more dominant, genetically, a more dominant person. You're
Mm-hmm.
intentionally inflicting upon someone who is less dominant from a genetic, like, makeup, I'll say, right? Like, you're intentionally inflicting on someone that probably can't defend themselves as well.
Um,
But like, if that's dealt with, and however way that could be dealt with, whether physical in the street, or does that possibly change a person's perspective on something, or force change rather?
I don't think so. Right? I don't think so. I think that, there was a few things going on in that situation. And so, one of them being, he could have possibly, seen that at home, like that was just something that he saw regularly, right? And so, what do we do? Life imitates life, right? So, because this is something that he's seen, being done regularly, like, this is what it's supposed to be. This is how it works.
Mm.
Um, the other thing is that, you know there obviously could, was some 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 emotional trauma there, and not really, him not really knowing how to express himself without being physical, right? Like him, I feel like if he had, the know-how to express that, he was upset because, I didn't give him my phone number, like I wasn't interested, and understanding that, then that action wouldn't have happened. But because, some folks don't know how to express what they are feeling, that's just what it results to. They act it out. And so that was, I feel like that was another one of the things that he had going on internally.
So now thinking back, you realize that that wasn't your first encounter.
Yeah.
So now, what was the first one?
um the first one that I can remember would be at 8 years old. um and I won't go into it because um it definitely can be triggering. But I was I was molested, and it was by it was by someone. It was by a family friend. Um, and that, I think that was very traumatic, and I think that for a long time, I held on to that, even though I told my mom what had happened. um and typically, like you hear, kids tell their parents, something's going on, and the parents don't believe the child, or they're just not trying to listen or give that any attention. And so, maybe they hear it and they just sweep it under the rug, or and then they definitely don't address it, right? Because we don't typically do that in the African American community. um but in that case, my story was a little different, and my mom, she did believe me and she did act on it. um the person she acted on it as best as she could. um the person was confronted. um However, not reported. It was not reported to the police. I remember being at the hospital, and being asked a bunch of questions and being checked out. um but we moved away from where the incident took place and the person that did it, um and didn't have any contact after that. And so I think I'm definitely grateful that my mother handled the situation the way she did. However, I kind of was upset with her because I blamed her for it happening. But yeah, when I was 8, that was my first experience. So I feel like, when you initiated the conversation, you started off with um, like abuse, but it seemed like you was leaning more towards the physical. And I think, one of the things you said early on was that, out of 10 women that I believe you stated 8, um, were assaulted. And I think it's important to say that, like, the abuse is not just physical. You know, we are emotionally abused. We are mentally abused. And a lot of times, those scars are the ones that last the longest. But a lot of people don't talk about, those particular ones, because when you say abuse, you automatically think about the physical, right? Because sometimes, there's evidence left behind of it, visual evidence.
How many have you had relationships where that was an issue?
Yeah, actually. But not, yeah, I would say, I would say I've experienced, um, just about every level of abuse, in my relationship. Yeah, I could say that.
Now, did you continuously stay, like afterwards?
No, I mean, um, I would say no. I would say no. Um, but even like I said early on, like, some of it we don't recognize. Some of the abuse we don't recognize as abuse, right? So, like I was dating this guy, and every time I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave, he would um he would, like, say it's in the middle of the winter, he would take my coat, he would take my shoes, and he would leave and lock me in his room. And I literally I had
How old were you?
um I laugh, but it's not funny. I laugh because as I think about it, it's like, I partially had no business, being at a little boy's house, right? Well, not a little boy, but just being young. What was I, 13, 14 years old? I was in high school. Probably, I probably had just turned 14.
And how old was he?
Um, like about 16. He was about 16.
16 is what, a junior?
Yeah, but dang.
Right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like, I think we don't necessarily take people's word at face value, right? And so, um, you know, like I've had dudes tell me like, if they can't have me, nobody can have me. Like that's abuse in itself. Um, I don't know, like I said, like I've experienced just about every level of abuse.
Which was the most damaging?
Well, I mean, like, how do you really decipher that? I mean, some absolutely taught me lessons, right? Um, but I can't say that one was more damaging than the other, right? Because I had already been at the hands of abuse early on, so it was just like just that same scab being picked off. The scar still healed, you know what I mean? But each time it doesn't, each time it hurts. I would say, like, let's just say, for lack of better terms, it hurts less. For me, it did anyway, only because I had started already building walls, and some parts of me was just like, well, this is gonna happen. I expect it, so I accept it in the moment.
Have you ever responded to the person in a physical or hostile way?
Have I ever? Yeah, I wouldn't say I would the first time and the only time that the physical didn't get a response out of me is when I just was completely shocked that had just happened. Each time after that, and it wasn't too many physical, like there wasn't too many situations where we actually fought. Myself and my then boyfriend fought. But the times that it has happened, it was never I'm not gonna do anything. Like, I'm gonna sit there and be a punching bag. It was never one of those situations.
The woman who you are today. Well, before I ask that, so would you, if you were writing your book, would you say that I was abusive to you?
If I were writing a book about abuse, would I include you? Would I include you in that? That's kind of a hard question, right? And not because I think sometimes too, the level of manipulation a person does is also, on their mate is also a form of abuse. And so I think, and not that you manipulated me in any sense, but I will say that I do feel like you've taken advantage of, you know, my cool and passive personality. So for that, I can't, I probably would do, just a brush over. But, anything else, I would say I couldn't put you in that book for that. Do you think you belong in there?
Um, no, but I'm open enough to hear if that's part of your story.
Mm-hmm.
I think, actions that were occurring, I certainly wasn't intending on hurting your feelings and making you feel away and questioning stuff, and that was never like the intention of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the impact of it is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So now, to me, I don't feel that that's abusive.
Mm-hmm.
But if you internalize that as abuse, like, what am I going to say about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can die in a hill if I've never abused you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people that make those type of arguments like that are people who are solely thinking physical. I've never raped you. You're my wife.
Right.
It's all that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? But like, I think I'm super mindful. I mean, the physical part, I always would like do deep dives on myself of just like almost like check-ins.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as I was aging, each kind of couple of years or whatever, I would do like little check-ins, and the check-ins would be like, if I'm 16, that I'm not attracted, and trying to talk to somebody who's 12 or 13. You know what I'm saying? When like other peers might be doing that. So then fast forward 21 talking to 17. Fast forward 35 talking to 20. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I am, and I'm so happy about it. Like, I'm actually attracted to older. And like, there's the obvious, like, Janet Jackson, Nia Long, whatever. But like, just older. Like, I remember seeing, like, I see I see girls and like their mother is more attractive to me, so I'm like, but I'm happy about that, as opposed to being one of the other dudes who I just don't like. I don't think that's cool.
I mean, if you're chasing young girls, then no, you know, and if that's like something that you be like, oh, this is all I'm 20 and I'm only interested in a 14-year-old, then that, that's just a separate issue. But there are, the same way that you feel like you are more attracted to older women, there are some men that are just attracted to someone slightly younger.
And I guess is that wrong, or that's just judgment?
I mean,
I feel like that's wrong because it's a power thing.
It technically should be wrong, right? But again, like, to each his own. Like, you can't, just because it doesn't work for you doesn't mean that it's not. It doesn't work.
I mean, I know, like, even early on, I was not into ever being intimate with, a girl who was super intoxicated and she can't even move. You know what I'm saying? Like that, I was never into that.
I mean, like, at what point were you around that?
I mean, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, you go to house parties. I
need you to elaborate, sir.
For what, Leah? You weren't even thought of at this point.
I'm just asking, like, when did this happen? I wasn't thought of, sir.
I mean,
I need you to figure that part
you
out.
weren't thought of by me.
Lie.
Leah.
But anyway, go ahead.
When do you think we met? Like, what do you?
When do you think we met?
What are we talking about?
Anyway.
Like what?
Anyway, I'm just trying to figure out when this happened. That's all.
You see her eye sockets?
Because when I met you, you wasn't able to drink.
Leah,
legally.
Leah, look, we're not gonna have such a serious show, and you're gonna inject it into it.
It's not both.
Leah, you went to Big Daddy's when you weren't of age. Are you kidding me?
I was 18.
You was not.
I was definitely 18.
Leah, you was definitely going into clubs that was 21.
So Big Daddy's, on whatever night it was, was 18 plus for the females. So. And
what about Guido O'Shea's and all
now
other?
You just doing dumb stuff.
I'm not doing nothing dumb. Let's talk about.
You mentioned one.
But now I'm mentioning two. What's up?
What's up?
Tell me what's up.
So yeah, I did go to Guido's.
Yeah, that's 21 plus, yo.
That's not my business.
Leah, you cannot be deceitful.
Who is me? You got your way of where you just flip stuff and just put it on me. When we talking about you, I see you. Are you okay? Did that lie get caught in your throat?
Leah.
What happened?
Shut
Put
up.
your hands over your head.
You put them over. So, I don't even remember what
And you was just saying that you wouldn't be interested in being with someone who is uber intoxicated.
Yeah, I don't like that. So, that could be
definitely
borderline or blatant rape.
Yeah, I mean, we've all watched enough episodes of SVU to know.
Well, see, the thing is that becomes gray, and I think this happens way more than is acknowledged, but there's the blatant rape where it's like, pull you from an alleyway and like rape you on the side of the road and like your clothes are ripped off. Or there's, we go on a date, had a good time, kissing, maybe a little bit of touching,
and the expectation,
and then you were saying like, no, let's wait, and the guy's like, no, and he keeps going.
Yeah.
And depending on you'll either be super like, no, get off me, no, and like kicking and swinging, or you just shut down and go into survival mode. and you know that this person solely wants this thing, so let me just deal with it, bear it, give it to him, and then he'll leave me, and then I'll survive. It's like those type of things I think happen. So, and because the person is responding that way and not fighting, the person in their head is taking it as, I'm not raping you. And
Well,
sometimes,
I just because you are not fighting, and sometimes, your body responds in a way that may state that you, in fact, are enjoying what's happening.
but your body's
Um,
just reacting.
of course,
Yeah.
of course, but then there's other parts of your body that are not as reactive. In fact, they are the opposite. So you don't need anyone to say after they've already said no or stop to verbally say it again if you continue with the act, because there are parts of their body that will let you know that this ain't it. I don't want this.
Do you think um, there's more than not of those situations?
More than not of what situations?
Of the guy can look at it as gray, in that
I mean, I really can't.
he didn't take it from you.
I can't. I can't. And I won't like really speak to that because where we like I would just be being presumptuous, um, because I'm not in that person's head.
You believe a husband can rape his wife?
I believe, yes, I believe a husband can rape his wife. I believe if you have been intimate, and I think that's the board. That's where for some people, it can get gray, right? But like, just because you was intimate with somebody, um, one time does not mean that you have free access to it for for whenever, wherever. And some people think that, and that's why they feel like a husband can't rape his wife. But even if you had no intimacy but had just a friendship relationship, like, oh, I know her, oh, I know him, we've been cool for mad long, I can't, how I rape or how did I sexually assault this individual if we know each other
Mm-hmm.
and we're friends,
Mm-hmm.
or I love her, you know.
What do you have or have you had friends that were going through like extreme examples of one of the, I mean, maybe all at once, but like the emotional or the sexual or the physical,
Yeah,
and
and the
what did you,
mental.
like, did you intervene? Did you make yourself available? Did you kind of just turn
Um,
around?
I definitely was not anything that was ignored. And again, this was all at very young age, right? And so there's certain things that I was aware of, and could recognize one, either A, because I've bared it or I was a witness to it. Um, but yeah, I had a friend who was experiencing all levels of abuse, in a relationship. I mean, she didn't stay. In fact, and it the day that it could have been deadly, like she literally ran to my house, and let me know like what was going on. And what I think is so crazy is that, we are again 15, 16, 17, possibly, yeah, we were about 16 when this happened. She ran to my house. I'm so grateful that I was home at the time. But she ran to my house and she let me know. She's like, oh, I was breaking up with him. And I told him that, I didn't want to see him anymore, blah, blah, blah. And, he came with the mental, he came with the physical, and he just grabbed her up. But then when she was not backing off of, her stance, he pulled the gun out on her.
How old were you? How old was she?
We were about 16.
Yikes.
Yeah, we were about 16. I mean, definitely grateful, he didn't follow her. I'm definitely grateful, he didn't try to make his way in. I didn't have nothing. Nothing that, could technically compete with a gun,
Wasn't there something on the bus?
Yeah, there was something on the bus. I was somebody attempted to rob me, and they pulled out a box cutter.
And this is back when the buck 50s, everybody was showing that. The scar faces.
Probably. I just remember being home probably the day before watching Montel, and he had people on there that had to have reconstructive surgery because of being cut with a box cutter. And this particular person had a scar from her lip to her ear, and that was all I thought of when he stood over me on the bus. And from that day, I was like, man, because what he said to me, he didn't take nothing. I didn't give anything, and I don't even know why I was so steadfast on not complying, but I didn't comply. And what he said to me, he was like, I see you all the time. I'm gonna get you. And from that day, I was like, psych your mic, because you ain't seeing me on these damn buses. And I had stopped taking the public transportation for years. Anywhere I went, somebody was picking me up or sending for a cab, but I was not getting on the bus. No siree.
For the woman you are now, the age you are now.
Yeah.
When there are women that are going through this.
Yeah.
What do you feel, or what do you think, or do you empathize? Do you judge? What do you feel about knowing where you are right now and where you are in your relationship?
And so I do my best to try not to compare myself or my situation to other people's. I think that if somebody is in a situation right now where they are being abused, it's not up to me or for me to say it's time for you to leave. You need to get out. Because no matter how many times you say it, nothing changes until that person is ready to make that change on their own. Now, with that being said, I will be a listening ear. I'll even be a shoulder. I will and I can advise, but I can't judge, or I shouldn't judge if they choose to stay. But all anyone can do is ask self-reflective questions. To give that person an opportunity to actually to think about what is happening, and why are they accepting of the behaviors.
Is there something, again, who you are, where you are in your relationship, the age that you are, would you is there something that you would say to the boy that locked you in his room?
I don't know if I would. I mean, I don't know if I would. If I would. I mean, oddly enough, we stayed friends. After we were pretty good friends after we broke up or whatever. And I didn't. I think at the time I didn't necessarily look at it as abuse, right? But that was definitely like he manipulated the situation, like he was controlling the situation, which in turn controlled my moves, right? But I didn't look at it as abuse back then. Like in my head, it was like, he's so crazy. He really likes me. Like that was my 13, 14-year-old brain. Like this dude really likes me. He's crazy. And that's crazy. And that's crazy. That's crazy.
I think that having a community is important.
Yeah.
And without going so in depth about it, because obviously it's ongoing. But the murders that happen with Jada Star and Deja Star and Sherelle.
Mm-hmm.
It's I would be interested to know if the things that they experienced or were feeling, if they had an opportunity to ask for help.
And so I think that again, it's it's easy looking in from the outside and thinking that people shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? I think that a lot of times, again, like when you're in these situations, you don't necessarily realize that you're actually in these situations. But to go even further, you don't, you tend to believe, because you so strongly want to believe, that this will never go past this. He won't, he might do this, but he would never do that. And, who's to say that, they had the space and used it, and because they weren't technically ready, they chose to stay or continue, because that's what happens. Again, not necessarily in their situations, but just overall, right? Like, I know I I dated somebody. He definitely lied to me about his age. He was definitely much older. And
I thought she was talking about me.
no, I mean, you definitely did. You did lie about your age.
I did not.
I'm not gonna play this game with you, but you definitely lied about your age. You told me that you was older. Oh, young self. Anyway.
Young tender.
He lied to me or whatever, and anyway, probably like a week later, like I ended up, breaking up with him. Like a week after I found out that he lied, I ended up breaking up with him. and not because he was, but I felt like he wasn't abusive to me. I ended up, for whatever reason, I was, I was at the house chilling or whatever, and for whatever reason, I had, I counted the condoms, and I was like, yeah, there was some condoms missing that, you know, we didn't use, right? And like I was like, yeah, I'm out, like you're not gonna be, messing around on me or whatever. Broke up, um, and for weeks, like, like he was calling me, I wasn't answering the phone for him. He was calling, he was calling other people for them to get in touch, trying to pass messages through them for me to get in touch with him. And of course, people are feeling sorry for this dude and like pleading with me, like, yo, just talk to him, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like I'm straight. And like he had other people calling me, like his people. And then, you know, I I won't. I would never forget. Like it was a snowstorm, and he was like, let me just come pick you up. I just want to talk. And um, I'm like, you know what? All right, fine. Like because he was just super relentless. And so on this particular day, it was just like whatever. Like he wore me down that day. Picked me up. We were talking. I wasn't really feeling nothing he was saying. And I was like, all right, I'm out. Like this is going nowhere. And like I said early on, like he never, like he never showed any signs of abuse. Like he never yelled at me, like like we never argued like that. When I found, when I found that there was some condoms was missing, even that, like it wasn't no spectacle. You know what I'm saying? But I remember trying to leave, and like he stopped me. He like blocked me at the door, and he trigger warning. He proceeded to rape me, and I fought back, and like I remember literally like being like all my body weight plus his body weight, like I'm literally on my neck. I can just feel all that pressure on my neck. And that's just, for me, like fighting. And at that point, he got tired of fighting with me. And I'm thinking he's, not going to try anymore or whatever. But instead, like, he goes, he gets a gun, and he puts a gun to my head. At that point, I would take it. Take it. And I remember giving up in a sense of where I wouldn't be physically fighting him. But yeah, I remember talking, like during it, like I remember like just talking to him, like, this is what you're gonna do, this is how you really want it. And just saying whatever I could say to like in my mind, like bring him back down to earth, because I felt like he was not that person that I thought I knew was not there. And he stopped. He ended up stopping, and it was weird. Like he went to take a shower, and at that point, like I gathered my stuff and I just ran and I ran and I ran. And that too, I didn't report it. I didn't report it. And actually, it's funny, like I like when I couldn't run anymore, there was a bus there, and I got on the bus, and I see one of my girlfriends on the bus, and I remember blurting it out to her, and I think that, like, the way that it came out, clearly she wasn't expecting it, right? Um, and she tried to be as consoling as she could be, on the public transportation. But after I said it to her, I didn't mention it to anybody. I never mentioned it again. Like, even, he's now, of course, like, he's still calling, he's calling. Um, and he's calling around, and he's doing the same thing he did, that day, like having people contact me from both sides, his side and mine. But I never, I never mentioned it. I mean, and I damn sure didn't, like, go back or even have another conversation with him.
And do you ever see these people?
I saw this dude one time, and my reaction was it was, we was out in the spot that was pretty crowded, but my reaction was to duck and hide and get away. Like, I wanted to become invisible to that person. And that was the last time I seen him.
And this is all in Boston, right?
This is all in Boston, yeah. Yeah.
So the thing that makes me really feel, you never really know,
Yeah.
because you know a person, but then you don't know how they are when you close the doors. But there's just so many, I feel like, predators and violators amongst us, just roaming freely. And, the only reason it's not widespread known is because people deal with things differently.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times the victim and the survivor ends up in a very weird, twisted way becoming a protector of the same person who attacked them.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how you can see that.
That's the part that's just very, like, and it just makes it an awful cycle. Because if somebody violates you, and then whatever happens, whether legally or otherwise, and they're dealt with, and there's consequences, and there's some action, I think the closure and the process for you can be a little different. But it's solely different when there's no closure.
I think that you can have closure, without there being any violence. I lost my train of thought, so my apologies. But I think that, you can have closure without there being any violence, and I think that a lot of times it's not because, the survivor wants to protect their abuser, right? Like, I think it's what I said early on, where it's a ripple effect, like, it's not just one person being hurt, and, like, every action, for every action there is a consequence. And so, like, so say my people go ahead and go retaliate and deal with the situation, go and deal with the situation. Now their people might feel like they need to deal with the situation. Like, it's just, that is just too much.
But why do you, as someone who was victimized, why do you care?
I think that being a victim or not, or being a survivor or not, right? Like, just some people are just built that way. And it's, you care because that ripple effect can come back and have some serious consequences. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want my people hurt or in jail. You know, and not because I don't feel like I'm not worth it. You know what I'm saying? Because I would like to think that I you know, I am worth it. You know, but just, you know, I don't want, I don't need the pain from this side, and now the mental pain from this side, and even the physical, right? Like, I don't need the abuse pain from the other side, but I don't want my heart hurting and aching because of something that I said or something that was done to me. They wanted to take care of it, and now this situation is just going back and forth. I don't want to be the cause of my people being hurt or in jail, you know? Like, so it's not about protecting the other people, it's about protecting your people.
It's definitely
And that comes with some level of maturity too, you know? Like, not everybody feels that way or thinks that way. And, you know, being that person, like, it's not always an easy thing.
Thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable and open enough to share a truth that a lot of other women who we speak to all the time may not have the comfort to share with a loved one and to release that burden.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, and I think it's needed.
I think the space is definitely needed. And I also believe that it's important to release that burden. And I think that once, I know for certain that once I was able to verbalize and once I felt safe. I felt like I was in a safe space to verbalize those things. No matter how much I journal, once I was able to express those feelings and those things that happened to me, I feel like, you know, I softened up in terms of, you know, like the wall that was, you know, being built around my heart, you know.
Did you still want to do your thing, or you want to save it for the next?
I'm gonna save it.
Okay. Is there any final words that you would? Is that your final? What you just said?
If I had to make a closing statement, I would just say that, you know, I don't have any hotline numbers, but you know, if you think that for any reason that you are in an abusive relationship, or if you are experiencing any type of abuse, find your person, find somebody that you can confide in, and think about why it is that you continue to stay in an unsafe relationship. And then figure out, you know, if you're ready, but when you are ready, what your next move is. And once you get out of that situation, you know, do some reflecting, some self-reflecting, do some self-reflecting. And hopefully that once you do your healing can start.
Well, that's been an addition. The most personal for sure. Thought the last one was personal, but I think we're just kind of organically going in different pockets and different spaces. So this is what Locked and Loaded episode 7, and thank you to everyone that listens and likes and tells a friend. We appreciate it. And yeah, this is signing out.
Peace out.
We're locked and loaded.
We're locked and loaded.